Hi, this is Chef Mickey and you're in my kitchen. Today we're going to be making East Coast pizza dough. This is a Michael Calante recipe. He's a master bread maker and I really like this recipe because it's very forgiving and it's just easy and it's kind of fun. So this is a nice light dough. It's not a real thick one. It's a East Coast style, so it's great for throwing on the barbecue if you've got a stone, or you can do it in your home oven. So you might want to pause and take note of the ingredients. Meanwhile, let's get to it. So the first thing we're going to do is make sure to activate our yeast. So it's recommended that the water is at about 100 degrees. You can use a typical home thermometer. I like to use 2 just in case one of them's off, I can tell. Some of them also come with this sleeve. You see this right here. If you need to adjust it, you simply slide that in there and you can adjust your thermometer. We also have an infrared, which is a really great application for this sort of thing. So we're a little bit off. So we'll just warm this up a little bit. Get up to 100 degrees, and then we're going to pour in and activate our yeast. We're going to set that aside for 5 minutes. And we're just going to let it rest. Meanwhile, let's go ahead and get our other ingredients together. Now this is rested for 5 minutes. Pour this into the bowl. Next, we're going to add a teaspoon of honey. Next is going to be olive oil. If you don't have olive oil, you can use canola. I like to kind of smell my oil first, make sure it's still good. I want to keep it in a dry, cool area. Let's see. Next, we have our dough. Our flour. Let's just stir this up just a little bit. Start sprinkling this in. Now this is going to start off and be, kind of wet, but no worries, it'll come together. Now you'll see people doing this on the countertop, which you're more than welcome to do, but it does get pretty sticky. So I like to kind of start off in the bowl before I move to the actual countertop, just to keep things nice and clean and together. It'll be a little shaggy, so not to worry. Like I said, this is pretty forgiving. Start to sprinkle in our salt, which is about 2 teaspoons. And if you can weigh all your ingredients out in baking, that's always ideal. If you don't have a scale, like this one, you can go from ounces to grams and pounds and what have you. And I like to cover this up because I like to keep things clean and I don't like to clean up too much, so this makes it super easy. So, I'm going to add some more of our salt. And by the way, that was 2 tablespoons of oil. Just going to keep working our dough. And you'll want to have some extra flour. This is all-purpose flour. You can make a lot of different pizzas pizza with all kinds of different flours. You can use whole wheat, you can do a sourdough. The variables do change just a little bit. Okay, so this is kind of coming together pretty nicely. Go ahead and take it out on the countertop and start working this. What we're going to do is we're going to work this for about 3 minutes. It's going to develop, and then we're going to let it rest for 5 minutes, and we're going to do it again. So I'm going to use this bench scraper. It has a round edge and a sharp edge, which is really nice for getting into the corners here. The thing about all this flour is you don't want any of this going down in your drain, because if you do, it's kind of like cement. So I don't know, unless you've got a family plumber, or you want to make friends with one, you have a crush on one, I don't know, unless you want them over your house a lot, do not put this down the drain. It is like concrete and glue. Okay, so let's go ahead and start working our dough. I'm just going to kind of fold this over. If you want to keep the dough from sticking to your hands, just rub some flour there. Again, it's going to look a little shaggy in the beginning. That's okay. We'll just turn it. So if you don't have a bench scraper, no worries. You don't need any fancy equipment. But I will tell you, this is one of the tools that definitely comes in handy. It's going to feel just a little bit tacky, which is fine. We're going to get the rest of this flour. And again, we're only kneading it for about 3 minutes. We just kind of reshape it. We're just going to let it sit just like that and get nice and happy for 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, we're going to come back. We're going to develop it some more, which means we're just going to knead it. And after this second phase, we're going to put it in the warmest part of your kitchen, preferably someplace between 70 and 85 degrees is really nice, so that the dough stays nice and warm and it will continue to rise. If you have to step out, don't worry. You can, if you need to retard the rise, you can always put it in the refrigerator. And then when it comes back to room temperature, you can start working it again. So again, I know it looked like I didn't pause, but actually we would have let it sit for about 5 minutes and let it rest and continue to develop. But for the sake of time, we're just going to press forward. So if you notice, I'm just kind of folding over and then switching directions. You can kind of feel the gluten. All right, so you take this, your dough, and you can put it back in this bowl. You may want to just sprinkle a little bit of flour in there and let it rest until it's about twice the size. So that's going to be 30 minutes. And in 30 minutes, it's going to look like this. It's going to be double in size. We're going to break off, about an 8-ounce portion. This makes a nice size little pizza. So, 7.7. So I like to kind of reform these a little bit. And you can, if you don't want to, if you're only going to make a few of these at one time, that's okay. Set those aside. You can also save some, put them in a baggie, spray the inside, put these in. They'll continue to rise for a little bit, even in the refrigerator. You can also freeze these. So next step is you're going to want to roll out the dough. All right, so you're going to take your dough. It's risen to twice the size. We're going to weigh it out in 8-ounce increments. If you want to save it for later, simply take a plastic bag. Make sure that you used a little bit of spray to keep it from sticking, because this will continue to rise even in the refrigerator for a little while. Cold will retard much of the rise, so you can also freeze it. We're going to go ahead and start forming this. So there's a couple different ways I'm going to show you. First of all, let's get a little flour on our hands to keep it from sticking. And on the surface, I'm going to push this out, kind of keep turning it, form a circle. When I worked at Marchion's Deli and Pizzeria when I was a kid, we had a machine that would do this, and it would just roll it out to the perfect depth. But we don't have that. So that's okay. These are rustic. It's a lighter style pizza. So after you get it a little bit bigger, you can use the weight of the dough, and it'll sort of stretch it out. You can also use a rolling pin. If you don't have a rolling pin, well, you can always use a wine bottle. Works just as well. So go ahead and turn this a bit. And we'll just keep stretching it out until you get the thickness that you want. I kind of like mine thin. Since I'm not a carbaholic, I do have to watch my carbs. It's more about the flavor, and I feel like I can get away with eating just a few more pieces. So again, if you want to flip it up in the air, do this outside, because you're going to end up with flour everywhere, trust me. All right, so get it to the shape that you want. And you can kind of just bring that back in a little bit. It's pretty malleable. There we go. And we have some toppings. Again, I like the lighter style of pizza. Put tomato sauce, you can put Alfredo, whatever you like. I have some pesto in the refrigerator. So I'm just gonna use some of this. Now remember that any of your ingredients that you're using, go light on moisture, or otherwise it'll go through and you'll get a soggy bottom, and nobody likes a soggy bottom. Alright, so not too heavy on the ingredients. Yeah, if you're going to use mushrooms or anything like that, vegetables, generally speaking, you want them to be pre-cooked, because otherwise they're going to leak out moisture. So this is a low moisture mozzarella that seems to work really well in this sort of a pizza. And then we have some nice little dried tomatoes I'm going to put on there. I'm missing just a few, so we'll come back. All right, again, so it's a light pizza. I can't stress this enough. Let the toppings just kind of speak for themselves. The oven, you can go from 600 from a range oven or kitchen oven. Mine is at 500 because I'm going to have to keep a watch on it. Again, you can put this at barbecue, but these do cook off pretty quickly. We'll put this in the oven. And this is what it's going to look like when it comes out. I'm going to take a little arugula and dress it with just a little bit of olive oil. Just a little splash of lemon and salt. And I'm going to dress up my pizza. Finish with just a little bit of Parmigiano. And that's it. There's your pizza, East Coast style. Enjoy.